Welcome. Nice to see everyone. Everybody was on very early this morning, so it sounds like people are ready to roll. So happy to have you here this morning. This is our Mind the Moment's Tuesday morning gathering brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. And for those of you that have joined us before, this is a place where we invite experienced mindfulness instructors to speak with us about what mindfulness means to them, and to discuss as a community how we can incorporate these practices into our daily lives. I'm Suzanne Rowe Palacino, and Happy New Year to everyone. I am so delighted to be here, always kicking the year off with me. This happened, my very first session was Greg Topakian. So here he is back with me years later, still hanging in there.
And you survived, yes.
Yes, we've all survived. And so happy to have you here this morning. So good morning to you, Greg.
Good morning to you, Suzanne. Always a pleasure, always a thrill. And to all of you out there, Happy New Year. Wonderful to be here and to have this chance to practice together and to explore how mindfulness can help us live our lives. So nice to see you. Nice to be here.
Definitely. I mean, it couldn't have been said better. So for those of you that have joined before, you know that we typically start off with a question for the group, and Greg will offer that question, and then we'll have an opportunity, and then you can type your answer in the chat. We'll have an opportunity to discuss that. Greg will share a few words, and then we'll go right into meditation practice. The practice will be at least 12 minutes. That is the sweet spot that Dr. Amishi Jha from the University of Miami has confirmed with her research, where the most benefit can occur. So typically, sometimes we might think, oh, the more you meditate, the better. Not always the case. Like, that is the sweet spot. So anyway, so we're trying to incorporate this into our lives. And I know some folks might have joined this morning that have thought about, wow, well, this is a new year. This is a great time to consider incorporating this into my day and my life. And a big welcome to you. And we're happy to help you along the way. So with that, Greg has a question for us. So Greg, what is your question?
Well, I'll frame it like this. Many of us who are drawn to meditation also tend to reflect about our lives, what's going well and what's not going well, and how are we doing, how are we treating ourselves, how are we treating other people. So the question is, has there been a recent episode in your life when you didn't act or speak according to your highest values, when you were a little disappointed in how you presented yourself to the world? And what happened next? You excessively critical? Were you kind? What happened, and what can we do about it?
Yeah, so I typed that in the chat for everyone if anyone has just joined. So has there been an instance where you didn't speak like you would have hoped? And how did you react? So you can go ahead and type that in the chat. And you know, as Greg was mentioning this, I started to think about this myself. And I have had some of those instances with my family where I reacted. I didn't think about what I said, and I just reacted. And, you know, many of us can say that we've done this before. So I didn't take a breath, which sometimes I tell myself to do, and sometimes I tell my students to do. I didn't take a breath. I just said something that I was like, you know what? That didn't sound like what I would like it to sound like. So, and how I dealt with it, yeah, I kind of kicked myself for it. I wasn't, you know, I kind of was like, why did I do that? That's not the way I want to represent myself and my family, you know? So anyway,
Welcome to the human race. Yeah, don't we all? And can we allow that to happen? And can we meet it with something other than excessive criticism? Yes, I'm still dwelling on it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So still trying to figure out how to do it better. Yeah. I'm just looking at some of the comments. Being kind to myself can be a struggle, and often I seem to double down and feel bad about not giving myself more grace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
even when we remember to give ourselves grace, then we turn it into feeling bad about ourselves because we're not giving ourselves grace.
yeah. Vicious
So
cycle.
yeah. How do we work with that? Right. I mean, I think it's positive to self-reflect, but how do we turn it into something that inspires us rather than buries us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Someone's mentioned here, it's so true. We're kinder to others than we are to ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a true statement.
And
Even after
that's why.
years, it gives me
Go ahead. Yeah.
Brenda's mentioned, even after years, it gives me an uncomfortable feeling. Yeah, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So interesting how we can kind of ruminate about some of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kristen's mentioned I've been working to speak more authentically and honestly. Sometimes in
Mhm.
a rush to get it out, I'm often not skillful. So working on that pause.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that pause, that 5-second pause can be the difference between one outcome and another. Completely
Abs-
different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love this. I love this inquiry. And what Greg mentions is so true. It's like the fact that we're even think about it afterwards. Sometimes we think about it and we're like, oh, we just feel horrible, or we just move on.
Hmm.
But just to think about it is the first step,
Well,
right?
absolutely. Uh, it's important to recognize when we've disappointed ourselves and when there's a little sadness. And the word I will use is remorse, not guilt. For me and for many people, there's this big difference between remorse and guilt. And guilt conveys with this sense of a permanent life sentence. Oh, I'm an awful person. There's no hope. It's desperate, and there's nothing that can be done. No, how we are in the world, we can cultivate new ways of being in the world. So it's appropriate to take in the feedback from the world when we feel badly, and to accept that. But again, let it serve as uh, uh, an inspiration for, oh boy, that's not according to my highest values. And
And a
um,
teacher. Yeah.
yeah, and what can I do to help it so it works out a little better the next time? Um,
Hmm.
it's not random, right? There are certain causes and conditions that lead to us acting and speaking in certain ways. And can we look at that? And can we know, well, geez, if I'm a little bit more rested, if I've practiced in the morning, maybe I'm a little bit less likely to act in unwholesome ways and more likely to act in wholesome ways. So it's a whole process of both accepting the disappointment and allowing it to inspire us to prepare to act in more healthy ways in the future.
Very true. Very true. I think about the fact that, I mean, thank goodness there is remorse. If there isn't, there's a whole other issue,
Oh,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah. And Julia, I love your comment. I mean, as families kind of converge in so many different ways. Yeah, that can be really testing all of
Oh,
our
absolutely.
patience,
Yeah.
all of our levels of patience.
Mhm.
Um, I'm glad this is timely for you. And Grant mentions forgiveness to oneself is not
Yeah.
always easy.
Yeah. Not always easy.
So
And you mentioned uh, more likely to offer it to other people. A number of uh, mindfulness meditation teachers, I'd say about 25 years ago, noticed this sort of hole or this gap in practice where we were more likely to offer it to other people, but not to ourselves. And so from that came this field called mindful self-compassion. And that's what we're going to tap into today. So is it a good time to start?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So this whole practice of mindful self-compassion, just as the words say, mindful and compassion, and it also includes a wisdom piece. So if there are three components to it, and we'll start with the mindfulness piece. So it's all about when we're in the world in a certain way, and when we act or speak in a way that upon reflection, we don't feel so good about it, right? And there's some discontent, there's some pain, maybe even a little suffering or torment. And so the first component is the mindfulness component. So we're aware of it. This is a moment of disappointment. This is a moment of disappointment. So we're acknowledging it. First step of mindfulness, right? We turn towards the feelings. We don't run away from them. All right? Turning towards. This is a moment. We're acknowledging it. But notice the language. This is a moment. Right? It arose because of certain causes and conditions, but it's not going to last forever. So we're not sentencing ourselves to a life of pain and torment. We're acknowledging that's what's here now. It's a moment. So that's the first step. The second step is I call the wisdom piece, and it's something like this. Disappointment, torment, pain is part of life for everybody, okay? So it doesn't mean I'm a failure or you're a failure, or it doesn't mean that life is out to get us. This is part of the life experience, is to sometimes have episodes, moments of disappointment. Doesn't mean it's a life sentence, right? It's normal, it's natural, it's part of life. And what that means is that, and this is what Suzanne was speaking to earlier, it's important for us to take this in. It's important for us to accept that we didn't act or behave the way we wanted to or speak the way we wanted to, and to allow ourselves to feel that disappointment. But here's where the compassion piece comes in. We want those feelings to inspire us to work on this in healthy and wholesome ways, and not to go down the cycle of negative self-talk and criticism. So we want to acknowledge it, but let it spark in us this feeling of, okay, I get that. It's not the way I want to be. I've got some work to do here, but there are some tools here to help me. And so I'm excited about this. I'm excited about making my best effort. So it's acknowledging it, but then not going downhill with it. Negative self-talk, I'm a failure, I'm an angry person, I'll never learn. No. Noticing if that comes up, but that's part of it, the negative self-talk. No, there are other ways. And that's the third dimension. May I offer kindness to myself? And we'll elaborate that in the next practice. So what I'd like to encourage you to do now is find a comfortable position for yourself. To engage in your setup, which most of you are familiar with from your personal practice. If you're new to this, it's perhaps closing your eyes if you're comfortable with that, finding a comfortable position to sit, noticing sensations in the body, adjusting posture so the body can become more settled, more peaceful. Finding a target to direct your attention to. Perhaps it's the breath, perhaps it's your feet on the floor. And just inviting your mind and body to settle down. Just to notice what it feels like to sit, to breathe, Feel the hands touching, feet on the floor. And what I will invite you to do now is to call up a recent episode where you didn't act or speak according to your highest values, that upon reflection, you're a little disappointed, maybe a little sad, and to notice the first impulse of when it began to turn into negative self-talk, excessive criticism of yourself, judgment, shame. Notice that first instant, and then we're going to stop that tape in the mind and rewind it back to the beginning. In a second, we're going to press that slow motion button on the mind's YouTube video and play it again, but to be edited with mindful self-compassion. Okay, let's press that slow motion button. And that episode is replaying again. You've acted or spoken in a certain way. And later on, we're feeling the reverberations. There's some sadness or disappointment. And so the first step is the mindfulness piece. This is a moment of sadness. This is a moment of disappointment. Let me feel it. Let me also know it's just a moment. Last forever. Second dimension, second step, the wisdom piece. Disappointment is part of life. Discontent, pain, uncomfortableness. It happens sometimes to each one of us. Doesn't mean I'm a failure or you're a failure. Doesn't mean the world is stacked against us. Just means as ordinary human beings, we're human. It happens sometimes. Can I turn towards it? Can I accept the disappointment without trashing myself for it, without criticizing myself excessively? Can I use the disappointment as inspiration to learn new ways to be? And the third piece, instead of criticism, may I offer kindness, just as I would to a friend. May I offer patience to myself. Some sympathy. Some grace. May I allow myself to feel all the love and support from other people who feel that way about me. May I feel a moment of peace with it all. So in the next couple minutes, I'll invite you to replay this tape and to run through the 3 steps for yourself. Use my words or your own words, whatever works best for you. Play around with it. Mindfulness piece, the wisdom piece, compassion piece. And I'll count backwards from 3. And when I get to 1, I'll invite you to reopen your eyes and come back to the group. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you, Greg.
You.
Yeah, really important stuff.
Well, this is our life. And in the spirit of New Year's, right? We often have intentions around New Year's, as you and I were talking about it. And intentions are very important. But how do we manifest those intentions? How do we actualize them? And the thing is that it takes practice, right? It's not just flipping a switch. Okay, flip the switch on. Now I'm going to speak in wholesome ways or respectful ways or dignified ways. No, it takes some practice, reliving intentions, reliving old experiences, feeling the disappointment, inspired to practice in different ways.
Yeah, and I think that that is also the important part, that this is a progressive thing. And, I know New Year's is, for me, it's a time to reevaluate and to start new things. I get that. But it's also doing that in a progressive way and a gentle way, where we're not hard on ourselves if we go back to our old ways,
Right. Absolutely. To notice disappointment, but not to let that turn into criticism, undue or excessive criticism.
Yeah. Yeah, someone's mentioned, I love that you say it's a practice and that people are not innately born with this. Yeah, it makes us accept our humanity.
Absolutely. And this is the science confirms this, right? The brain and heart, the habits of the brain and heart can actually change. But it requires practice, right? We have to teach the brain and the heart to begin to travel down different neural pathways, so to speak, getting out of my element here a little bit, with different neural pathways here. And the way it learns to do that is by doing it. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Repetition is the key. And and compassion, like, okay, I didn't do it this time, but that's okay. And even, with our meditation practice, we have a really beautiful group on this morning, and knowing that there might be more people on than your typical Tuesday, and maybe that will grow, and we're looking forward to that. But at the same time, if you're starting a new meditation practice, they say if you do it most days, and if it's if you start with 2 minutes a day or 1 minute a day, don't try to start with the 12 minutes. That's a commitment. And if you're evolving, if you've already been practicing, great, and maybe you're retired and might have extra time, who knows what's changed in your life, but just letting yourself, if you are committing to incorporating these practices into your life, that the science says that having a regular practice is the most important. And that doesn't mean every day. It means regular, like, what does regular mean? It means not irregular, So it means as much as you can do.
And if you notice a little moment of grace as we're practicing here together, a little moment of peace, to take that in as well, right? That didn't happen randomly, right? It happened because each one of us created the space to practice together a little bit, to allow some time for quiet contemplation and look at what the fruits were of that. So again, let that motivate practice rather than having another should on the to-do list, right? And then feeling bad when we don't strike it off the list, right? Have it be motivated by memories of the peace that came out of it.
Well, with that, I don't think we can end on a more positive note than that. So thank you, Greg. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me the very first session of the year. I think this should happen every year.
Let's hope.
Yeah, we'll take every year we can get, right? So thank you to everyone, and so nice to see everyone. And I'll be back here tomorrow on Wednesday. We'll do our Zoom meeting format. And let me see if I can quickly add the, I don't know if I have that here, but what I'll do is I'll send in the chat just the link for all the sessions. I don't have the specific session for tomorrow, but that Mind the Moment session. Oh, there you go. Julie, you're right on top of things.
Thank you.
Love it. Thank you so much. And yeah, so that's where you'll get the connections to all of our other sessions. So with great gratitude to you, Greg, and everyone else. And we'll see you soon. And Michelle, will that work for THP? Oh, 10% half? No, Tufts Health Plan. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I'm getting the acronyms down. Yes, absolutely. The whole community of 0.32. So see you soon, everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you, Suzanne. Wonderful. Wonderful to be with you all.
Yeah, see you next time.